So this says how to stop procrastinating, the only guide you'll ever need. Um, as it is, procrastination, I just got done a couple homework assignments, and this is kind of my in between before I do the others, and So, I don't know how helpful this guide's really gonna be. This is my first time reading it. So let's get started. It says your big project is due this week. The deadline has been looming on your calendar for days, weeks, maybe even months. But with each passing minute, it becomes harder to focus. So you find the resistance. You check Snapchat for the 11th time. You drink another cup of coffee. You put it off until tomorrow when you'll have fewer distractions. But we all know that day never comes. Tomorrow never comes. The author who wrote this was a recent college graduate who is navigating the professional world and can say that permanently eliminating distractions is an unrealistic goal. I've learned this even in college. However, with the right mindset and strategies, we can curb our tendencies to procrastinate. So this is to help with that. So, procrastination is an emotional behavior. The human brain is often irrational and indecisive as it is powerful. The rational part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, is locked in a constant battle with more the emotional instinctive side, which is the amygdala. As nice as it would be to use logic to convince ourselves why we shouldn't put off important work, our brains aren't that simple. We are emotional creatures, and our emotions are often what play the biggest role in our tendencies to procrastinate. This is especially true for those who have had a hard time regulating their emotions. Even though we might feel guilty for putting things off, we tend to rationalize our behavior by convincing ourselves that it's really not a big deal. For example, a study conducted at Bishop University had students react to stressful events in which procrastination actually caused a problem, including a scenario where someone came back from a sunny vacation with a suspicious mole, but put off going to the doctor for a long time. In this situation, the chronic procrastinators made statements such as, "At least I went to the doctor before things got really got worse," rather than things like, "If only I had gone to the doctor sooner." The no big deal responses are called downward counterfactuals, reactions that downplay consequences in an effort to improve one's mood in a short term. This is in contrast to upward counterfactuals, reactions that embrace consequences so as to learn a lesson for a future reference. Even though most of us, myself included, feel guilty about procrastinating, our craving for emotional pick-me-ups when confronted with difficult or boring tasks prompts us to rationalize counterproductive behavior. This keeps us locked in a never-ending cycle of inaction. The biology of procrastination. When a research team in Germany did fMRI brain scans on 264 adults, they found a link between difficulties in taking action on tasks and a greater amount of gray matter volume in the amygdala, which is the brain's fight or flight center. In other words, chronic procrastination can literally change your brain structure. But don't worry, our brains are extremely adaptable. The right habits can rewire our brains for the better. In fact, a study done in 2013 showed how in just 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation can actually shrink the amygdala. And as the study notes, as the amygdala shrinks, the prefrontal cortex associated with higher order brain functioning such as awareness, concentration, and decision making becomes thicker. The findings from the fMRI scans reflect the result of another study done at Brooklyn College, which discovered a correlation between procrastination and problems with executive functioning, meaning our self-awareness that allows us to control our behavior. When the researchers tested students on procrastination and then on 9 measures of executive functioning, such as self-monitoring, emotional control, and organization. They found that higher levels of procrastination were significantly related to problems in all 9 scales. So, to sum up these insights, the current body of research points the finger primarily at our inability to self regulate our emotions and mood as a significant cause of procrastination, even though we can sense the harm we're doing. Giving into our emotions doesn't just make procrastination seem okay, it just reinforces a mental pattern. So, if you find yourself falling into the procrastination trap, the last thing you should do is shame yourself for it. In fact, a productive first step to a better habit is forgiving yourself for the past procrastinations you've done. In one study of 119 college students preparing for midterm exams, researchers discovered that students who forgave themselves after procrastinating on their first exam were less likely to put off studying for the second one. As the researchers note, procrastination is really a self-inflicted wound that gradually chips away at your most valuable resource in the world, time. But remember, you're not alone. Procrastination can make us feel isolated at times, but it's encouraging to know you're not the only one on the battlefield. Even the greats were preoccupied with their occasional lack of motivation. Walter Isaacson's biography on Da Vinci makes that clear, stating, "The most obvious evidence that he was human rather than superhuman is in the trial of projects he left unfinished. Tell me if anything was ever done." He repeated, scribbled in a notebook after notebook. "Tell me if I ever did a thing. Tell me if anything was ever made." So this goes over, the next part is procrastination, perfectionism, and priorities. Carl Richards once said that if you want to carve an elephant from a block of wood, you don't start the process with fine grit sandpaper. Richards is a financial whiz, but the metaphor has strong implications when it comes to procrastination. Your project is your structure, and if you want it to turn out well, you must start with blunt instruments and broad strokes, not obsessing over the details. Leave that for the end. It's easy to succumb to shiny object syndrome when we're tempted to fantasize about the fun or popular facets of our projects, while the most important part, sitting down and doing the work, gets thrown to the wayside. You know that trying to sand an elephant out of a block of wood actually it's daunting. And what daunting means is that you're probably going to quit before you even get started. Maybe you'll take a few passes and perhaps you'll get as far as shaping a leg or a trunk, but eventually you're going to give up. The process is just too slow. Perfectionism is the enemy of productivity and the friend of procrastination. It's only after making these initial violent chops, starting the project, that sandpaper, fixing the details, can be effective. So grab your proverbial chainsaw and go wild. The procrastination equation. So there's an equation here that they have. Dr. Pierre Steele, a distinguished research chair at the University of Calgary, is a procrastination expert. No, that doesn't mean he's good at procrastinating. It means he's devoted his professional life to helping people combat procrastination. In his book, The Procrastination Equation, he presents an equation that explains your current level of motivation to accomplish something. So the way he has it set up is he has expectancy times value on the top, and then underneath impulsivity times delay, and then it's a divide symbol in the middle. So it's expectancy times value divided by impulsiveness times delay. I know you didn't come here to solve math equations, but this can give you some key insights into why you're not getting as much done as you'd like. So we have to break down the variables. So first, let's see if I can find There we go. I wanted a blank piece of paper because I'm actually going to write this down. But expectancy is how confident you are that you can actually get this thing done. So you have your expectancy times value over So anyway, your value is how much this task means to you. Impulsiveness is how easily you give into temptations. And delay is how long you have to wait before you receive the expected reward of completing the task. So that's kind of what I don't know if you can see that, what the equation looks like. Expectancy times value. Yeah. So if you need to stop procrastinating, evaluate your situation based on the 4 variables and identify your strong and weak points. Rather than flailing hopelessly, you'll gain a better sense of self-awareness. Maybe you need to curb your impulsiveness. Maybe you should incentivize your tasks so there's less delay between action and reward. No matter how the case is, all the following actionable tips can be applied to create a more favorable outcome for your personal procrastination equation. So I'm going to take a little break, and then when we come back, it's going to say take control of your environment. So anyway. Hello. So I'm back. So this is take control of your environment. First things first, if your environment is littered with temptations and distractions, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage from the get-go. For example, working in your dorm might seem convenient, but if video games and food are within sight, you may be tempted to take a lot of study breaks. If distractions fuel your procrastination, the first step you'll need to take is to find the optimal study space. People's preferences for study space differs greatly. For example, I prefer libraries and other silent places, while others need the bustle of coffee shops or study centers to feel comfortable. Regardless, here are 3 tips to keep in mind when creating your study space. Remove distractions, video games, your phone, unnecessary snacks, maybe even people. Just be nice. Keep it consistent. Your brain loves patterns. And if you return to the same space over and over, your mind can channel its energy into work instead of wondering why you're moving from place to place. 3, make sure everything you need is within arm's reach. If you actually leave your notebooks or calculators in other places, you're giving yourself an excuse to interrupt your workflow. Pack up and stay put. I should also mention that taking control of your environment isn't just limited to physical items. You need to take control of your digital environment too. This can mean putting your phone on airplane mode to eliminate notifications or closing out ESPN, Reddit, Facebook, or whatever else sucks up your time. So, eliminate your choices. In his 2004 book, The Paradox of Choice, Why More is Less, psychologist Barry Schwartz makes the case that reducing a consumer's number of choices reduces anxiety for shoppers. For example, an ice cream shop with 237 flavors is more overwhelming than an ice shop with 7. The same theory applies to students and professionals. The more options we have, the harder it becomes to zero in on specific tasks. Instead of knocking out one task at a time, we squander our time wandering, planning, and procrastinating instead of doing. So the solution, become a robot. Robots are programmed to operate on a specific set of commands. They don't think about options, they just do whatever they're programmed to do. In the same way, we must break down our to-do list into small, manageable chunks and check them off one at a time. This way, you can channel your resources more effectively into wondering what needs to be done on an hour-to-hour basis. Having autonomy and freedom of choices are important parts of a healthy life. But sometimes we need to pull in reins to be more productive. So this method I've seen in this next technique I've seen before, it's the Pomodoro technique. Contrary to popular belief, this technique is more than just a zesty, delectable pasta sauce. Pomodoro. The Pomodoro technique is one of the most effective strategies to combat procrastination and work effectively. If you're not familiar with it, it is a time management philosophy developed by Francesco Cirelli. It's based on time intervals that promote bursts of intense productivity, followed by brief periods of rest. So here's how it works. You choose one task to work on and be specific, no multitasking or vague goals like do homework. This needs to be tangible, like outline my essay or solve problems 1 through 4. So mine was like today I did do discussion post 9 online. Zone in for 25 minutes. This isn't 25 minutes of loose focus. We're talking eyes glued to the work type focus. Think of it like being on a treadmill. You can't let up or else you'll fall flat on your face. Take note of your distractions. I thought they were supposed to be ignore distractions. Not now. Whenever you catch yourself thinking about another assignment or what's on TV tonight, jot it down. The way your thoughts are trapped on paper instead of constantly floating around your brain. Take a 5-minute break after your 25-minute sprint. Have a stretch, get a drink of water, or walk around. These brain breaks will recharge your mind and keep you from burning out. Repeat steps 1 through 4 until you complete the task. If you want to dive deeper into this technique and find out why it works and learn how to fully optimize it, there's an entire article on it and on how to do it. So there's that. And then blackmail yourself is the next thing. People have probably told you to hold yourself accountable, but this strategy takes accountability to a whole new level. Merriam-Webster defines blackmail as extortion or coercion by threats of public exposure or criminal prosecution. This sounds intense, but blackmailing yourself into getting stuff done is a surefire way to make procrastination a thing of the past. So here's how it works. Pick a challenge, make it specific, and give it a deadline. For example, work out 5 days per week for an hour. Write 500 words every day for a month, something like that. Find someone to blackmail you. The blackmailer you choose will hold you accountable throughout the duration of your challenge. Ideally, this person will check on you daily and won't tolerate excuses. Make the deal. This is the part where you'll decide the consequence. If you fail to accomplish the goal, this should be fun for the blackmailer, but scary for you. Here's a template to follow. If I don't blank by blank, so if I don't insert task here by specific date, I will some extreme action you will hate with a burning passion. The standard contract usually involves getting betting money, for example. If I don't complete my essay, I will give John my rent money, for example. But wait, you say, I can't afford that. That's the point. The deal should be costly enough that you have to complete the task. There's no shortage of options here. You can blackmail yourself into donating to a cause you don't believe in or a political party you disagree with. The key is to pick a blackmailer that will actually hold you accountable and follow through on the deal if you fail. The next thing I don't usually do, but it can be helpful for other people, is they mention using apps to force yourself to focus. So you have an app called Freedom. Freedom is an app that allows you to block distraction websites on Mac, Windows, Android, and iOS. In addition to blocking websites, it can block applications like Slack and Skype. So, Beeminder, describing itself as a goal tracking with teeth, is an app that can make you pay money for procrastination. And then there's Stick with 2 Ks, created by behavioral economists at Yale University. It encourages behavioral change through loss of aversion, and accountability instead of shutting out the distractions that fuel procrastination. This is kind of the tech version of blackmail yourself, which I just said. So, and then this person had his own personal tips for beating procrastination. Over the past 23 years, I've been fortunate to learn from some extremely smart people. Their advice, while tough to swallow at first, has helped me immensely. So, here are 4 reminders that keep me plugged along. Accept the part of you that wants to be lazy. Anthony Bourdain called it a guy. Steve Pressfield calls it the resistance. Regardless of how you label it, awareness that you have a tendency to be lazy is half the battle. It's impossible to escape the temptation to say, screw it, I'll do it tomorrow. Renouncing laziness only intensifies it. But if you accept that you're tempted to binge watch your favorite TV show or eat an entire carton of ice cream, this ironically puts you in more control than the people that are in denial. Reevaluate the work you're doing. Jason Fry, the founder of Basecamp, says that distractions can serve a purpose. They'll tell us that our work is not well defined, or our work is menial, or the project as a whole is useless. The next thing says have a why. So why are you doing this project, really? Avoid toxic people and situations. Jim Rohn said that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Or as Goliath said 170 years earlier, tell me who you associate with and I will tell you who you are. The company we keep sets the standard for what we perceive as acceptable. Laziness and indifference can be infectious as physical diseases. So there's 3 books to help you stop procrastinating that they mentioned. 168 Hours, You Have More Time Than You Think by Laura Vanderkam. Atomic Habits, An Easy and Proven Way to Build Good Habits and Break Bad Ones by James Clear. And Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World by Cal Newport. So, finally, close your browser and get to work. Procrastination may have gotten the best of you in the past, but the good news is that you're in control. At the end of the day, nobody is forcing you to put off your work. Once you realize this, you're free. The right activities are as accessible as the bad influences, says the writer Ryan Holiday. They are as plentiful as anything else. What you decide to do with those assets is up to you. But choose wisely because it will determine who you are. Now stop procrastinating and start doing.